Welcome to Picks of the Press, the sports betting show hosted by a former statistics professor. I'm your host, Professor Sides. Wednesday, July 1st, 2026. We've got a full slate of baseball. We'll get to it pretty quick here. Just a quick little recap, and we don't have the slides for that yet. I did add a new feature to the website, though, where you can click on the summary tab and go to yesterday, so you can kind of see how it was down a little bit yesterday. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, and I know some of the people on the Discord are talking about, is the incompletes are doing really well. Those are those higher than 5% edges, and I think there's going to be some real value there. I'm not sure. Up to 5%, I think, is pretty good, and that's where the A grades kind of stop. That up to 6%, 7%. I'm not really sure where it gets into true outlier. Things start diminishing returns, and it might be different for sides and totals. So that's where I've been mentioning these next 2 weeks. I'm really excited for the data that we're about to get to kind of answer those. There's not many of them, but those A grades seem to still be doing really well. And that's kind of the key thing that I want to focus on here. Again, if you're with us now, when I haven't even really promoted, you've probably been around the block here with me a few times. And those A grades, the idea, and I think I mentioned it yesterday, is just, we know the model's not perfect. We know it's off a little bit, but the A grades are, there's enough of an edge at this price that we kind of say, even if we're off a little bit, there's still probably some value here. And so that's kind of why we like those. But we are kind of trying to figure out where that threshold should end with the incompletes. And we're trying to figure out, there's some biases on some teams. We got a lot that we're learning here. I'm really excited. We've been making money here lately, even in this learning period. And so that's what gives me optimism. That's why I wanted to get back on and record, because I wanted y'all to see me walk through the process. Because I could have just waited and not done any shows this year, waited until college football and the next season and said, yeah, we figured it out. Here's the model. But I kind of wanted to get on camera and say, hey, I'm going to be learning as I go. And I'm really excited because I think I'm kind of picking up where we were 4 years ago, finally, with a really promising model, learnings, and ways to sustainably make money based off of what I know my model's trying to do. Or I think I've kind of got a sneaky good edge based off of some stuff I see under the hood that I'm really excited about. So again, day baseball today, all throughout the day. We're going to start off here with the Orioles, who just keep letting us down. And we're just going to back them again. Now, should you? I don't know. I decided to wear my Orioles hat today to say, guys, it's time to put up or shut up. I'm at least glad we went with a run line on both. And if we win today on the run line, going 1-2 with the 2 losses being the big plus odds and this one, it won't be break even, but it won't be that bad. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I looked at it a little bit. I don't really have enough data to think. I've been looking back and Pickett. I don't really think the model's that far off on the White Sox or Orioles. Might be off a little bit. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm not convinced yet that this isn't a great play. But, I think I'm playing in a, old man league, and my team is the White Sox, and I've had some arm issues, and I haven't played tonight. We're making my season debut, playing a little second base, see if I can throw it that far, see if I can get back up to pitching later. And my team is the White Sox, and so I'm going to have to wear a White Sox hat tonight either way. So either we're going to have gotten swept because this is a day game, and I will know, and I will show up in my White Sox uniform. It's a throwback one, so it looks pretty cool. And, I'm going to say, I'm going to take it on the chin, and we just lost 3 in a row with the Orioles, and I'm going to wear my White Sox here. Or I'm going to say, what, the White Sox got 2 out of 3, but I wore my Orioles hat, and we got one of them. We're going to say one of those tonight here and throughout the day. Noah Schultz, not great. I don't think anybody would argue that. Dean Kremer, coming off the IL, only made a couple starts. Don't really think his metrics are useful. I didn't look at that at all. I just, the 11 innings, that those metrics, the projections based off all the other data, really. And I think he's the better pitcher. I'm not sure exactly how deep he'll go. He might not make 4.9. Obviously, he won't make 4.9. He might not make 5. Might only make 4. But in general, I still think at home, the Orioles, I like the fact that since they haven't won, all their better relievers are ready to go. So there's lots of reasons to think it makes sense. But, hey, at some point, the White Sox are pretty good. And if you decide you don't want to back the Orioles or you don't want to fade the White Sox, I don't think I blame you. The A-grade threshold's plus 141. I think plus 140 or better is kind of where I think it makes sense. But the Orioles, kind of continue to be disappointing. The White Sox continue to over-improve. And so this is one where I'll be looking at this, and this will be some of the adjustments here we'll start making pretty soon, is maybe we need to be thinking about what what needs to be turned up or turned down a little bit more just so that it catches us a little bit better. Because we're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to catch what's going on a little bit better. And, I'm not going to say we'll find out today either way, but we'll get another good data point today on these two teams, because these two teams have been a little bit, I think, surprising. And the model's saying, hey, don't lose faith. And maybe we should. I don't know. But we're going to try the Orioles again, run line plus 145. Rangers and the Guardians couldn't get the over last night despite 4 runs. I think the first couple innings, it was real early on. And couldn't get the over, but we did get the Rangers, which is good. We're going to be back on the Rangers today. Minus 102. The A-grade price is plus 103. So anything around even money makes sense. Fair price is minus 112. I would not play it past minus 110. I really would prefer to play it at minus 105 or better. Plus odds obviously better. Mackenzie Gore against Joey Cantillo, 2 lefties. Gore's the better pitcher in my mind, and it was already slightly higher. But you can see there with the grade, the projection, the underlying metrics, the FIP and the XFIP. I mean, I think everything kind of points to Mackenzie Gore's a better pitcher. I like him a lot. I like backing him a lot. The Rangers have looked pretty solid here this series. The Guardians struggling on offense, left-handed heavy, and that means they're weaker against lefties. I think this makes a lot of sense. This is one that the value isn't overly high, but I think it makes a lot of sense to have as part of the portfolio. Doesn't mean they will win. It's just sometimes in your stock portfolio, you got to have a little bit of, some of the bigger boys. You might not need to have Apple in your stock, because I think Apple's probably, everybody knows exactly what that is. You're not going to outsmart the Apple price, right? But sometimes you need some bigger players in your stock portfolio, and I think that's kind of this one. It's not the sexiest pick with the Rangers, not the most valuable pick, right? Playing it at minus 102, but I think it's really going to be, one that we're going to enjoy having more times than not. Okay. And so again, you never know how one game plays out, but I really like this one here, Rangers, and your even money. They do have a disadvantage to bullpen if it's close late. I don't love that. I don't love the fact that the Rangers, having won a couple games of the series, they might have used some of their better arms. I haven't looked exactly yet. That's an update in the model that's coming. That's in the works, in the pipeline, to kind of really work with those bullpens and adjust the bullpens based off of recent usage. We're not quite there yet. Right now, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, saying this one's close later. It might not be great. It might look Rangers first 5 might make a little bit more sense. I'm not sure the price on that one. We're entering a market with more VIG, so it's a little bit of a dicier setup, I think, playing those first 5. But this would be one where I think it might make a little sense. Really like the Rangers. However, you can play them against, again, a Guardians offense that I think is really going to struggle against the lefty in Gore, a good lefty in Gore. Tigers and Yankees yesterday worked out beautifully for us. We're going to go with the over 9.5 on this one. They're throwing the hook at us, and we're not afraid. Troy Milton has pitched well, gotten good results in his 38 innings. The underlying metrics say a different story. Overall, pretty average. Yankees offense pretty average. Tigers offense pretty average. Bullpen's pretty average. Everything pretty average here. Will Warren maybe a little better than average for the Yankees, and they're at home. That's why they're slight favorites. I think is you got the slightly better pitcher, and they're at home. But bottom line is 16% increase in scoring due to park and weather. And people talk about Yankee Stadium and talk about how it's a launching pad and blah blah blah, and it's really not. It's really a pretty even park with regards to runs and home runs both, despite the Aaron Judge stuff. Where people get confused, and I've said this before, so you've probably heard this, you've probably been with us long enough to know this, that in the fringe months, early on in the season, later on in the season, it's chillier, the wind blows in a little bit, and it's hard to score. There's a lot of unders. In the summer, if it gets hot and the wind blows out, then it becomes a launching pad, but it only plays that way a handful of times. On average, it's pretty close to average. That's why that park factor of 101, it's not, maybe what people wanted to make it out to be when Judge was doing so well. But on days like today, this is where Aaron Judge is going to make his money, and of course some of the other guys, because they're going to be able to get some runs and some home runs. This game might get a little bit wild. This one might be fun for a ladder because Yankee Stadium, when you have this sort of weather, can get fun. So playing over 9.5, I look over 10.5 as well. I think makes a lot of sense. If you want to go higher than that, go for it. But at least getting some plus odds at over 10.5 as a little sprinkle extra, I think makes a lot of sense given the weather. Otherwise, there's not really anything here that makes me think runs aren't going to happen. There's no truly bad offenses. There's no great relievers, really. There's no great starting pitching. So it's up for a lot of runs here this afternoon in Yankee Stadium. Padres and the Cubs. We're going to take the Padres plus 109, Walker Buehler and Colin Ray. I got the better pitcher with Buehler, a guy who, was really good, had some injury issues, looked like he wasn't going to be able to find it. Maybe he's found it again. Those underlying metrics are really good for him. The ERA is pretty good. I mean, and I don't think it's completely a mirage, really. He projects at a 4.16 based off of previous seasons, the injury stuff, all that. But, I mean, Buehler might be better than that projection. Buehler might be better than a 99. I had Buehler and Dustin May on my dynasty team this year. Start the season, I was high on both of them. And I completely goofed because early on in the season, May had a couple bad starts. I needed a roster spot, and I cut both May and Buehler. Then I was able to pick up Buehler later, and then needed the roster spot, cut him again right before he started taking off. Folks, do as I say, not as I do, especially with regards to fantasy, because those are two guys that I was high on, and I just lost faith too soon. And that's why we have the model to help us know when to lose faith and when not to. The model hadn't really lost faith yet, but I needed a roster spot. I gave up on two guys that look really good now. I'm really high on Buehler. I think if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a pretty good pitcher for the Padres, which they desperately need. They desperately need some offensive help, but they've got good pitching. This sets up to be a pretty good pitching game for the Padres. The issue is the Cubs' offense is really good. The other issue is it's going to be another day for a ton of runs in Wrigley. And I decided not to play the under in Wrigley today, even though the model said to. I just don't know. We split the two, and I'm kind of happy just saying that's fine, let's move on, because the Padres don't like scoring runs apparently with their offense. They've got pitching that's going to prevent runs, but the Cubs, throwing Colin Ray out there, might give up a ton of runs. Their bullpen's not very good. They've got some hitting, so I just don't know. It's a day game. I'm just not messing with the under. And if I was going to play the over, like I said, I play an alternate over. I play like an over 12 and a half, maybe 14 and a half if I had to play a total. But I just want to see the Padres. I think I like their pitching in this one. I know it's going to be a tough pitching day, but if you can get good enough pitching on a tough pitching day and hold the Cubs to, 4 or 5 runs, that's probably going to be enough to win. The Padres can probably, on a day like this with the Cubs pitching, as bad as their offense has been, can probably put up, 6-7 runs. And so I like the Padres here at plus odds. Model says 50-50. A-grade threshold's plus 114. I don't need it that high to play it. I'm playing it at plus 105 or better. Plus 109 was the pick we gave out. But anything plus 105 or better, I'm playing. And anything even money or better, I still think it's probably worth a look. I'd just be scaling back because the tax you're paying just gets a little bit too high. Pirates and the Phillies, Skeens and Wheeler, two legit aces here. Skeens number 5 in baseball. Not because he's with Skeens. Skeens got up to number 1 for like a hot second. But Struble, of course, has been amazing. And Sanchez has been amazing. And Skeens has been amazing. But there's been some other, Mizorowski came out of nowhere. But I kind of expected him to be like maybe a top 10 guy, but not a top 5 guy. Nothing against Skeens. Skeens at a sub 70 grade. Phenomenal. The model loves them. Everybody loves them. And Wheeler, despite the concerns with the injury and what that surgery would do to him and how he would come back with that and the velo and all those things, there were a lot of concerns about Wheeler. You guys on my dynasty team, and he was a keeper for me because I knew coming into this year, even though his salary was going up, I knew that he could be really helpful for me, and he has been. He hasn't been. His underlying metrics not quite as good as at 203, but I don't see any reason to think Wheeler's still not a top 20 pitcher in baseball. Maybe top 15, maybe flirting with top 10. You got two legit aces here. And folks, we're going to go with the over. And the reason why is because of two reasons. Number one, that 13% increase in scoring. It's going to be a hot day. It's going to be, it's just great hitting weather all across the country. Part of it is I have my fantasy team and I have to pitch him because he's one of my better pitchers. And if he gets lit, I want to at least make some money. But the other thing really is, these two teams can throw some good arms at you, but they've got good offenses. And the fact that this is 8 tells me I want to go over because my gut said this number was going to be 7.5. And you might say, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. And I would say, well, here's the thing is I didn't think it should be 7.5 because the weather. I'm just saying, knowing it's Skeens and Wheeler, I really just thought there's no way the books would go higher than 7.5. we talked about this yesterday with Seattle, and that Seattle over the hit for us, right? Where I was like, this should be 7.5. They're doing 7 because they're afraid. This one, I thought they'd do 7.5, which kind of tells me how afraid they are, which just also gives me confidence to go over, because I'm thinking that they're basically saying, look, it's Skeens and Wheeler and you want to go under, and we'll let you go under, and we'll even give you the push on 8. We don't care. And I'm like, well, that says a lot to me. And that doesn't mean it will go over. It just means that the weather and the environment here sets up for some crooked numbers with some big flies. And there's just a lot of ways this game can get to 4-4 with these pitchers, or somebody puts up 6, and then we don't need that much to get over, or at least get the push. So one of my favorite plays of the day, sneaky favorite, just because, like I said, I'm kind of just reading the tea leaves and saying Skeens and Wheeler having a total like this tells me all I need to know, tells me what side I want to be on. 8.5, I'd probably go over 8.5 too. I'd want much better odds, of course. I'd want at least even money. If not, good plus odds. So if it goes up, I think that's okay. But I wouldn't be afraid if it went up a little bit. I'd only be concerned if it went up maybe a lot to like 9 or something. But as it is, I just think there's a good chance for a lot of runs. And maybe it's a pitcher's duel. And if so, if these two guys can go out there in this weather and against these offenses that are decent enough, and this becomes a 2-1 ball game, then you just tip your cap. But I think the weather's going to set up for some runs. So we're going over 8 there. Even money, A grade thresholds plus 103. So technically a B grade. But like I said, it's kind of like the Ranger one for me. I think it's one of those sneaky good picks reading the tea leaves, even though it may not have quite as much value as some of the other ones that we have. Cardinals and the Braves. Got the win with the Cardinals last night at plus odds. Took the loss with them on Monday. We're going to go back to them here at plus odds. I was able to look into it. The model hasn't been great with the Cardinals. It's been one of the weaker teams on it. And so it is definitely on my homework to-do list either over the weekend or next week to kind of, again, try to figure out. It's kind of like that White Sox Orioles thing I was talking about earlier. There's no major changes coming to the modeling. We're just subtle tweaks of saying, hey, are we not weighting something correctly here? Because the market's picking up on the Cardinals aren't as good as the model thinks. And maybe there's something that I can kind of adjust the lever a little bit one way or the other on some of this, where it is a little bit of an art to kind of say, hey, maybe they aren't, quite as good of an offense as that and need to be, dropped down a peg. For this one, though, I'm backing them for a couple reasons. First off, model says 50-50 plus odds. It makes sense. Is it 50-50? Probably not. It's probably Braves 52 maybe percent. And so I think there's enough value here that even though I lean Braves, I don't mind backing McGreevy, especially because his underlying metrics aren't that good. And so I don't think you can really make a case that the model is overestimating McGreevy. I think McGreevy's grade at 97, right? Slightly better than the average. I think that's pretty accurate. I think the Cardinals bullpen grade's pretty accurate. I think the Braves bullpen grade's pretty accurate. The offenses are a little bit where I think maybe the model's missing, but Ronaldo Lopez is not a bad pitcher, but he's not great either. And that ERA I think is a little bit misleading. And so when I look at it, I go, I think the Cardinals might have an offensive edge. They're on the road. It may not be as much of an edge as the model thinks, but I think it's good enough to play here at a price like this. I don't love this play, but you're getting plus 120-ish or something out there. I think it's worth a flyer is kind of how I feel about it, that there's enough value there. I don't really want to pass on it. I'm not sure I want to play it too heavy, but we'll take a chance with it and see. Maybe we can get 2 out of 3 here with the plus odds in the Cardinals, because anything can happen in one game. And again, I think we got, pretty even matchup at a lot of places. And the biggest difference is, can the Cardinals bats come through on the road? They came through last night. Let's see if we can do it again. Reds and the Brewers, we're going to go with Shane Drohan here and a pair of lefties against Andrew Abbott. We're back to the Brewers again on the run line at plus 132. You know how you win 2 out of 3 plus odds on these run lines with the Brewers? It's a heck of a series because we just made some good money. So that's kind of where our thought is here. Offensively, the Brewers are much better. Bullpen, the Brewers are much better. Starting pitching, about the same. I think that Drohan's better by a good bit. I'm not convinced how deep he's going to go yet. He was in the pen earlier in the season. I don't think they're really dying to stretch him out like to 7. He'd have to be really efficient to go that deep. The model's still saying only 4 innings. I think that's a little low. I kind of think I might project him closer to 5 here, but I think the bottom line is, on a per inning basis, Drohan's better. The bullpen's then better. So every inning, the Brewers are going to have an edge at pitcher if they want it. If they don't, it's because they're losing, and the Reds threw their best reliever, and the Brewers threw a garbage guy, right? And it won't matter to them. So the Brewers can have a pitching edge anytime they want it, every time they want it, every inning of this game. They have an offensive edge every time this game. And they're at home, and I'm like, hey, that's all the recipe for me to say, let's play them one way or the other. We're going to go with a run line because we don't want to play big minus odds. And, we got an easy A grade here, plus 124 the threshold. We're getting plus 132. Just no reason not to, in my opinion, because the last thing I want to say here is the Reds are right-handed heavy, and the model's giving them a boost going against the lefty and Drohan. The Brewers are left-handed heavy, and it's giving them a ding going up against the lefty and Abbott, and the model still says this is an A grade. Doesn't mean it'll win. It just means I don't really see any reason to think that we shouldn't be on it, and hope that, again, as part of the collection of these A grades, that we come out slightly more ahead than behind, which is the whole goal. If we just do that every day, that's how you double your bankroll. You don't double your bankroll, overnight. You do it by making a little bit more every day, then you lose a little bit, every week, that sort of thing, step by step. And so that's kind of the approach here with the Brewers on this run line. They might only win by one, but in the long run, I think this is a smart play because the Brewers are just so much better than the Reds at home, and I just love their edges everywhere. For me, that means run line. Marlins, the Rockies. We're going to go back to the Rockies here at plus 140. Lather, rinse, repeat of what I said before, which is if you're going to play the Marlins, play them on the run line at plus odds. And if you did that both times, you'd won. And if you play the Rockies on the plus odds on the money like we've done, you've lost. But that's kind of the point of what we're saying is when you're playing games in Coors, it's pretty simple. Just figure out which side you want to be on. The model's still going to be on the Rocky side here today, plus 140. I think I even saw a little bit higher than that afterwards. Clearly in the A grade threshold. Freeland is better than that ERA. I think Freeland's a solid pitcher. I think he knows how to pitch in Coors a little bit better than most. Been doing it long enough. The results have not been there. And I know that you look at that ERA, he's had a really rough year. But I think he's better than that. Max Meyer's still the better pitcher. The Marlins still have a pitching edge, and they still have an offensive edge, and they still have a bullpen edge. The Marlins have the edge everywhere. But it's Coors. And now we're talking deeper into the series, and guys have pitched there, and I don't know. Things get weird in Coors. And so this is where, too, if you thought the Rockies would, maybe you even take the Rockies minus 1.5 at plus 200 or something like that, and say, let's take a chance and really see if we get a home run. I don't think that's crazy either. I love Meyer, and the Marlins could easily win this, and if they do, they probably win by multiple runs. Meyer's not as good as that 260, though. The gap between these starting pitchers is not as big as the ERAs would indicate, as the market would have you believe. And that's why we're on the Rockies. It doesn't mean they'll win. It just means, I love Max Meyer, but he's just not maybe as good, I think, as the market, has him out to be. And Freeland's a guy I would buy stock in, except for the fact that he pitches a course, so I wouldn't buy stock in him. But his underlying metrics and his projection put him to be more of an average pitcher. You take an average pitcher who knows how to pitch in Coors, and a young guy who's maybe not as good as that ERA, he might get around in Coors. I'll contradict it too, and Rockies might score some runs, and then we're at plus 140. It's all about, I don't really care about the last two games. It's all about we're at Coors. There's going to be some runs. Weird things are going to happen, and plus 140 is a smart pick. Or again, if you want to get really risky, take the run line. If you're on the Marlins, definitely take the run line. But that's how we're going to play that one. We're also going to play the under, and we passed on the under in the Cubs game, and I'm passing on the under in Kansas City as well. And I don't know if I should or shouldn't. That's kind of where I said we're collecting some of this data. We're finding out as we go. I'm just open out there. I'm just open book. Here it all is. And I'm just showing you how I'm betting it, how I'm trying to make the most money now, because even though I think we have learnings to come and we're going to make more money next year, and I think we're going to make more money in August than we do in July. I think we're going to make more in July than we made in June, and I'm happy with what I made in June. So I'm still doing all this and showing you. I think we're going to make money here in July, but I'm passing on a couple of those because I just don't feel great about them for various reasons. This one I'm playing the under on. I think my thought here is Freeland is a better pitcher than the market thinks, by more than the market is overvaluing Max Meyer, I think. I think that's kind of the angle I'm coming at here is if Freeland is closer to average, even if Meyer isn't quite as good as the market might think, that alone could give us reason to believe that the under makes sense. It is a night game. If this was a day game, I would be a whole lot more concerned. I haven't looked at it. I assume they're playing a day game tomorrow. That's going to be where it's fun. I probably wouldn't play the under there unless something weird happens with the weather or it's just a really, really high number. I'd be a lot more afraid of it in the day. At night, you're going to still have a lot of runs. It's still going to be, but the wind's blowing in. And I'm like, it's a big outfield. There might be a lot of singles, but if there aren't many home runs because the wind's blowing in, there might be a lot of ones on the scoreboard. And if there are more ones on the scoreboard in a weird game, that's kind of 6-5, 6-4, 5-3, kind of, whatever. That's how we go under versus if you have those crooked number innings, that's where things fly over these numbers. So doesn't mean we can't get nickeled and dimed to death on the over. It just means of all the unders of the 3 unders that are scary today that I really don't want to play any of them, this is the one that I think makes the most sense. I'm probably wrong because I just have an uncanny ability to get on TV and say things and then just the opposite happen. It's kind of funny how that works. But, I'm taking a shot with this one of the 3. If you want to pass on all 3, I think it's smart. I think if you want to play all 3, I think that makes sense because you're trusting in the model. And totals have been pretty good on the model. Even though yesterday they didn't do as well. They've still been pretty good. So, you got a lot of different ways you can approach it, I think. But this is of the 3, the one I think I like the most or I dislike the least or I'm most comfortable with might be the way to think about it here. In a game, I'm gonna take the side in a total, and I think maybe that's the last thing I wanted to say was I'm doing it because I'm taking the side in the total because I think that if this game goes over, I think it benefits the Rockies because we're at plus odds on the home team, and I trust Freeland a little bit more to not get blown up. Again, any pitcher can get blown up in any game. Either one of these guys could be gone after the first or second inning. But if someone is going to, if there are going to be a lot of runs, I kind of assume Freeland, if Freeland has a bad outing, his bad outings in Coors are usually like 5 1/3, 4 runs. I'm like, if he gives us 5 1/3 and 4 runs, that puts us right where we could win both of them. If he does better than that, we probably got the under, right? If he does worse than that, we're a little bit in trouble. But I think that I'm putting a little bit of faith that that's not as likely to happen against a Marlins offense that is a little bit left-handed heavy as well. The Rockies haven't been competitive in the first 2 games, really, so they should have all their bullpen guys. And I'm kind of thinking it's kind of like that Mets game the other day, and we did lose both of them. In a game where we talked about, we said I had the Mets and we had the over against the Blue Jays, and I said I kind of think we got a chance to win both. I think if nothing else, we got a split, and we ended up losing them both. And I said I think it's going to have to be a couple different things go wrong, a lot of things go wrong, and that's what happened in the game. Multiple things happened that were kind of surprising, I think, because 2-1 games are kind of surprising in general, and that's going to happen. And that might happen here, we might lose both. But in general, these situations where I can kind of identify that, I found that I do pretty good saying we probably are only going to lose one of them and we might accidentally win both. We'll see if that holds true here. Coors is weird, so I'm a little bit more hesitant about that because that Coors is just its own beast. But in general, I think for me, thinking that Freeland, I'm really just placing a bet that Freeland, like I said, goes maybe 5 innings and gives up 3 runs. And it doesn't have to be sexy. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to really help his ERA that much. Just to keep him in the ball game. Keeps him in the ball game. If the Rockies aren't scoring, we got the under. And if they are scoring, we got the Rockies. And if he keeps him in the ball game and the best relievers pitch, we might accidentally win both. So that's kind of how I see it. Hopefully it doesn't turn into that Mets Blue Jays game because that wasn't very much fun for me personally. It's not for you either. Speaking of not very fun, Giants and the Diamondbacks. Giants really just, back-to-back days, making me look like a fool. I guess that's the thing when you go up here and get pictures, you get me look like a fool a lot. So is what it is. I'll still back him today. I'm backing him today because of the starting pitchers. I have strong feelings about both of these starting pitchers because of my dynasty league, actually. I mentioned this before with Gallen. I just think Gallen's a wash. I'm sure he's a great dude. He seems like a really nice dude. He's had a great career. It's just when you get a guy of this age, when things start going south and you start not being able to get swing and misses, you stop, that sort of thing. Guys put the ball in play. That batting average on balls in play goes up, but it's not really fluky. It's like they're putting the ball in play harder and they're putting the ball in play better and they're just not chasing you and that sort of thing. And that's where, a FIP of 524 and XFIP of 492, his projection isn't even that high. His projection's better than that. I'm like, I'm not sure he's that. I think he might be a 5. I think the 524 FIP and the 492 XFIP, I think that might be right. I think that might be better than the model's prediction. The model predicts him at a 468. I'm like, I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's as bad as a 615, but I don't think he's that good at this point. And I don't think anything's going to change. And anytime I can fade Gallen at this point, I am, because I know the days are coming when we won't be able to. Just like Nola was kind of that way for a little bit for a stretch. And now we don't really fade Nola because everyone kind of realizes he's old and decent, but not good. I think people still expect more from Gallen. I'm like, I just don't. I hope for him he does. I hope all players succeed. As a former player myself, I never root against any of them. But, I just think if I can fade him, I can. And so that's one reason. The other reason is I like Trevor McDonald. I think he's better than that 5 ERA, the 401 FIP, 402 XFIP. It's only 50 innings. I think that's a lot closer to reality. He projects at a 430. I think that's right. I think he's a solid pitcher. I don't think he's great, but I think he's solid. He's a guy in my dynasty league that I picked up. He's actually the guy I picked up for Bueller. And I think they're both pretty common. I wish I had Bueller at this point because I think Bueller's upside's higher than McDonald, but McDonald's rookie. And in this league, the rookie thing matters because we built some weird stuff. So, I think they have pretty similar value in that. And I think the same thing here. I think I like backing this guy because I think he's good. I think he's better than people realize. He's a young guy. And I like backing McDonald. I like fading Gallen. So I'll play the Giants at plus 105 because it's a B grade. I think the price might be a little bit better now, which is great if he gets up to that A grade threshold of plus 111. If you can get plus 110, I'd count it as an A grade if that's a thing you do. For me, I don't love backing the Giants again, but I love the pitching matchup in our favor here. And so that's why I'm doing it. If the Giants lose this one again, I'm not going to say they're banned, but if it wasn't for this pitching matchup, I would look at Giants B grade and I would pass. I would not play it. It's only because of the pitching matchup that I think I'm going to try the Giants one more time. And hopefully when they hit me, baby, one more time, hopefully the hit is they're scoring runs and they're not beating us over the head with the backs. That's kind of what it feels like they did the last 2 nights to us. And so we'll try the Giants here tonight. And then to wrap us up, I almost wore the Dodgers hat because I feel like the Dodgers have been good to us here lately. We kind of had some issues with them there for a bit, but getting the over and the run line winner here on back-to-back nights to start off this series. And we're going to go over, but folks, this one is weird because I put this out and I went to bet it myself, basically as I put it out. And it was a little bit today. Things have been crazy, and I haven't quite figured out the process. Eventually, the process is going to be I'm going to make sure I get all my bets in before I hit the submit button. Right now, when I hit the submit button, if I hit it one step too soon, it'll go out to the website actually before I make my bets. I just got to not hit that button, I guess. But you just want to hit the button because then when you hit the button, well, everyone wants to hit the button, but then you see all these anyway. The point being, I haven't quite figured out the process to get my bets in before I post this stuff. And then I hit submit. And then, something happened with the kid. It wasn't very long. And this was the last game I bet. By the time I got there, and I'm talking 15 minutes, 9.5 was like minus 130. And it was up to 10. And I thought to myself, I went, self, because that's how you talk to yourself, right? The Dodgers offense is amazing. The ace bullpen's terrible. I don't even know who Charlie Barnes is. I don't even know if he's supposed to go a bunch of innings. The Dodgers have done well with bullpen games. It's not that really. It's more so that park can get really hitter friendly. Things can go crazy there. Things can go crazy and stop, as we saw this year. But you've got an average pitcher for the A's with that bullpen. The Dodgers are going to score some runs. They might be overpriced on the run line, but there's going to be some runs there. And in that park, I trust the A's are going to get something. And I went, you know what? I don't really care that it's gone from 9.5 to 10. I'm going to go ahead and take it. And I took it at 10. And then since then, it might be up to 10.5. And so what I was going to say about this game completely changed from when I made the pick to when I made the bet to when I'm recording now, unfortunately a couple hours later, because, stuff with the family and the kids and everything. I still think I'd play over 10.5. I don't believe in chasing steam. But the fact that my gut says this one's okay to chase a little, not a lot, I think tells me a lot. And the reason I say that is I'm either my default is either insane discipline or no discipline. That's my default. I've had to work really hard to figure out how to do the opposite in both of those. And that's been a lot of work. And that's kind of where a lot of the educational lessons are going to come in. I'm going to show you all how to do both sides of it, depending on which one you need to be more of. I had a lot to learn on how to be more disciplined in some of my actions and some of the, decisions that I made in certain areas. But with regards to chasing steam, I am very disciplined. I'm very much this is where my statistics, training, the years of schooling, the work in industry, the teaching it, this is my life and this is who I am. I mean, I wrote a dissertation on how much data do you need in certain situations in order to be able to come up with certain conclusions. That was my whole dissertation. It was just deep diving that. That's just how I think. And knowing that's how I think and knowing that the sharps, I can be a sharp and I can be a square. I can see both sides. I can play for both teams, And the sharps would say, oh no, have your price and never chase. And you know what? I think the sharps would get better if they were a little less sharp in certain areas. And I think the squares would be better if they were a little less square in certain areas. And that's what I'm here to try to do. I'm trying to help find the balance of both worlds. I think that's why, when I made that reference about under the hood stuff I'm excited about, I think that's why I built a pretty good model, because I'm trying to figure out how to find the best of both worlds. And I think I accidentally stumbled into some things. And this is one of those where I think my gut says, my default says, don't chase steam. My gut says, look, in this park, if the morning happened and all that money came in, there might be a little bit of meat left on this bone. That doesn't mean there's a lot. So I wouldn't play it as hard. I wouldn't play it as high. I might not play it as an A grade. But if you're looking at 10.5, I think I'd still play that. I don't think I'd play it at minus 130. Probably not minus 120. If it gets that high, I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what it is right now. I just know it's still going up when I hit record. Whatever that was, 30 some minutes ago. And so, by the time you're watching this, I still think over 10.5 makes sense. Still think there might be some meat on that bone. I think if it was me personally, ignoring the model, but knowing because if it was me and I was making my own sports book, which is ironically enough, the whole point of this is me trying to say I'm opening up a book, but I'm not taking your bets. I'm using it to help y'all and me beat the books, right? Is that I would have opened this total at 10. So I would have never taken that money that they did, because you can see here on the screen, A grade over. I would have never opened it. This was foolish in my opinion. I might have opened 10.5 and seen what happened. But the fact that I know that enough came in on 9.5 to get to 10 told me personally 10 is still worth it. And so I'm still playing the 10 because maybe you push, who cares? It's not like we're bankroll limited today, because it's not like it's a college basketball Saturday or even a college football Saturday or even an NFL Sunday where you just want money everywhere, right? I think you should have plenty in your bankroll to handle, how we're spreading out money today, what we're doing. And if you push in baseball, I just don't think it's a big deal. Whereas other things you might say that push that money opportunity cost, but I'm like, I don't think there's an opportunity cost here, personally. There's nothing else happening. I don't think there's even WNBA today. There's tennis, but tennis will be done by then, right? There's no opportunity cost. So over 10, I still think makes sense. I wouldn't play the odds too high, because if you lose, you're screwed on that one too. So it's the push protection is about the number more so than the odds. But if you want to play 10.5 and you better odds, like I said, I might have opened it at 10.5. And people might have played a little on the over at 10.5. I'm not really sure. I think 10.5 is kind of a good spot. So you can kind of go either way. But like I said, for me, my gut, seeing that steam, knowing this part, knowing the Dodgers offense, my gut says I'd probably still play it. Even if it went higher, I'd just back off a little bit. Whereas other games, I'll tell you, hey, here's our hard stop. Like, I just don't want to do more than that. This one, I'm not saying, jump off with the runaway train. I'm just saying if you can grab the train before it leaves too much, throw a few coins on that train. We'll see if it's not a wild game. We'll see if it's one of those that we can't get the winner by the 5th inning and move on with life. The other thing you could do on this one, you could look to play a first 5. The reason I would be a little bit leery of the first 5 is the Dodgers with a guy like Charlie Burns, I don't even know who he is, could easily be doing some bullpen stuff, get to the bullpen earlier. They sometimes use good guys early in the bullpen. That's how Dave Roberts manages it. A lot of times if it's a close game and he pulls his starter after, 3 innings or something, he's got one of his better guys to get that guy because he's only pulling them because it's the middle of the lineup. And he's smart. He's not going to pull the guy for the bottom of the lineup. He's going to let him try to get those guys. But to the middle, and that's where he might go to one of his better guys earlier in the game than most managers do. That happens early on. You might have a little more hard time there. Again, it's going to be the best pitcher for the A. So the first 5, I don't think it's crazy, but I don't personally love it as much because I can see this game being, 3-2 after 5, 2-2 after 5, 3-1 after 5. I hope it's 6-6 after 5. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I think there's more likely that the over would get screwed early than late. The conditions are better to score early on, but later on when he gets the A's bullpen, I think either the Dodgers are going to start running away or, they're going to be trying to get back in it. And the A's, I just don't think they've got guys to hold the lead very well. And so I'll just take my chances with the over for the full game, more so than the first 5. But that's another way you can look if you think that maybe there's some more meat left on that bone, depending on the prices and everything that you see. That's what we got here for today. If you're still with us, if you saw on Patreon, we sent the link out for the Dub Club. That's available on Dub Club. You can go find me on dubclub.com. Just search Professor Sides. You can find it there. If you're on Patreon, go to Patreon. I said that made it open for everybody. Monthly price, $19.99. First month free. Yearly price, if you want it, $199.99. And that means that you're getting about 2 months free if you buy the yearly. No first month free on that one because you're getting 2 free every year. You're locking in. So if we do, if this thing goes like I think it will, and I hope it will, and we've got price increases down the road, you'll have this price forever. And the people who've been with me for 4 years, most of you, can attest to that because that's how it's been. No matter what the price has gone up and down, I've always taken care of the people who stayed continuously. And so, I think, it makes a lot of sense to think about that yearly, but if not, go ahead and get in on that monthly because that's what's going to get you into the Discord. We were having issues with all the permissions and everything from Patreon. We're going to cut the cord on Patreon pretty soon for that Discord link because I want to make sure we get all over to Dub Club. I've already refunded a few people who just paid for Patreon, just paid for a full month. And I say, I'm like I said, I'll give you that money back, and then I'll give you the free month at Dub Club, so everyone gets a bridge right through this hassle. Because I know it's a hassle, so we'll make sure to get you taken care of. Go ahead and get signed up on Dub Club. That gets you in the Discord, which is great information, great community, and I think a really helpful part of becoming a better sports bettor. Free month because there's no educational content yet. That's going to be coming soon. We're really close to working on the first of those videos. We're going to get a Vimeo up. It's going to be all stored through there and available through the website with your Dub Club credentials. So, hey, first month free because we don't have as much there yet because I just want to get everybody in. But the stuff's coming. It's coming fast. If you've been seeing the website updates, it's happening all fast. May not happen much today, tomorrow. Tomorrow, I got a really busy day. But then next week, I'm going to have some real free time. The missus and the little guy Hudson are going to Austin. There'll be a 3-week intensive therapy for him. I'll be down there for a little bit of it, but this next week will just be me and Maddie here. And so I'm going to have some great time to really catch up and move a lot of this stuff forward. So expect a lot coming. Get over on Dub Club. You can get there any which way, but everything's open for free right now on PicksProfessor.com. The Dub Club credentials won't be needed until probably sometime next week, but sometime next week they will be. So if you don't do it now, it's just a couple days until it's needed. So go ahead and just get it done, get in the Discord. And like I said, you will need those credentials. I'm thinking early next week. I'm hoping early next week to get in there because we're building so much up. It's really exciting, and I'm just trying to get as many things done as fast as possible here. And so hopefully you've enjoyed these shows. Like, subscribe, comment, and hopefully we can do a show tomorrow. I really think I can. But if we don't, for sure, we'll have another one Friday. So we'll for sure get 4 shows this week. I'm really hoping for 5. And then, like I said, next week we'll start settling into a real good schedule. Really excited, really looking forward to it. Glad you're here. Hope you're having a good time. Hope you have a good Wednesday, good sports betting day. And of course, as always, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.